Welcome, everybody, and thank you for being the sorts of good souls that are here at 9:30 a.m. for the first session on a Friday morning. I'm Amelia Evans. I'm the Advocacy Director at the Committee to Protect Journalists, and I am honored to be on this stage with the incredible Faten Elwan, who is the AJ Plus correspondent from the West Bank, and who made it here after an epic and rather harrowing journey at 2 a.m. this morning from Marseille. Also, we have the wonderful Dylan Collins, video journalist from AFP, based in Beirut. But as you may have noticed, glaringly absent from this stage are any of the Gazan journalists who have been documenting the war since October 7th, 2023. We had hoped to have Shrouq Al Aila, the recipient of the 2024 International Press Freedom Award, and the person who has become responsible for running Ain Media since her husband was killed in the first weeks of the war. And when the ceasefire was announced in January, there was a brief moment in which we thought it might be possible that she could finally leave Gaza and join us. But that has not come to pass. Instead, it's been 552 days that Gaza has been locked down. Journalists cannot enter, except in rare instances, under military escort, and Gazans are unable to leave. To date, CPJ has been able to verify, which for us means confirming with at least two sources, 167 Palestinian deaths since October 7th. That's approximately one journalist killed in Gaza every 3 days. And not a single one of those deaths has been transparently investigated or comprehensively accounted for by Israel. We have currently confirmed or have reason to suspect at least 20% of those deaths were intentionally targeted killings, often by a drone, often while wearing a press vest, always by the Israeli military forces. And I need not remind anybody in this room that intentionally targeting a journalist is a war crime. And unfortunately, these numbers are likely an undercount, with the cumulative impacts of the war making documentation increasingly difficult. Indeed, the blackouts have become so challenging in Gaza that Shrouq didn't even feel that she could remotely join us. And so instead, we are starting this session with a video she made, in which she gives us a frame for what we might mean when we say justice in this panel. If you can play Shrouq 1, please.
Justice for journalists here in Gaza is not charity, it's a necessity. It means recognizing that these deaths, they are not accidental, and it also means conducting more investigations and bringing that responsible of targeting the press to accountability. And it also means that these journalists who got killed during this genocide, they are people, they are human beings, they are not statistics, they are lives. There are people who are just suffering after them. And also it means, like, for us who are still doing the coverage on the ground, it will give us a sense of security, a sense of relief that somehow we have a backbone, which we don't actually, and it's totally seen since day one. It is unflooding actually that all of the human rights, all of the international law things, all of these things that we kept hearing since I raised up, it's all a lie, like a balloon that just exploded and it has nothing inside. And this is exactly what we are witnessing here. We have lost over 210 journalists, and we have seen nothing happen to those who targeted the press. Conducting justice for journalists in Gaza, it means also giving us a space to tell the truth, not being terrified all of the time on our lives as well. It will give us more space to tell the truth, to do more coverage, to be somehow relieved. Having international staff, foreigner journalists here in Gaza will bring us some production and will also give us the space to be heard in several tongues. Okay, we as journalists, we are high educated, but yet it's Gaza, the besieged Gaza. We don't speak all of the tongues, and we need different tongues to join us here in doing this coverage. I'm talking to you, I'm hearing in the background, I don't know if you can hear it. This is the F-16 Israeli warplane, just hovering in a low altitude, and the Israeli drones. Like hearing the F-16, it means that it's going to attack. And yet, like we hear it and we wait until we know where is this attack, and it should be you. Sometimes.
Faten, when we were just talking, you were saying you can hear the sounds of those F-16s and the bombing in the West Bank. The war is clearly, having an effect there too, and is affecting you and your ability to report. And I wonder if you can talk us through that and also give us a sense of what Al Jazeera, who has had 5 staff killed in Gaza, has had its operations sort of temporarily banned in Israel and in the West Bank, what Al Jazeera has been doing to try to seek accountability.
Well, all my life, my name was Faten Elwan. After the May 11, my name became your Shireen's friend. And it's not normal for a friend to carry her friend on her shoulder dead. Shireen, at that day, she was the only journalist, if you don't know. There was supposed to be a big operation against Jenin. For at least 4 months, Al Jazeera was sending reporters on shift so Jenin will not be out of coverage. When they targeted Shireen, they wanted a blackout. They wanted everyone not to know what they wanted to do in Jenin. What they're doing today is destroying this camp and evacuating everyone in it. And on that day, I said, this is a big message for what's going to happen next. And what happened next, if you go into the office in Ramallah, Al Jazeera office, it's a funeral house. It started with Shireen picture, and then all the others. I don't want to name any one of them because there's so many on the list, some you know and some you don't know. But Ismail al-Ghul, who was targeted in his car, he got a rocket and his head was amputated. It's not just targeting, it's silencing. I don't want to be biased to my channel, but the biggest number of, maybe in your bathroom, you will find a camera for Al Jazeera covering the news. This is how bad they wanted to silence Al Jazeera. And for me on the ground, it's easy to tell you so many stories, but I will tell you how we work on the ground. I was shot 3 times. 1 time was by mistake. I was in the wrong time at the wrong moment. The second 2 times, it was me wearing my vest, my hat, and we were covering a big invasion in Nablus, and the soldier came and asked me, did you finish? And I said, yeah, you can see us packing. And he said, okay. He waited until I took off my vest, I took off my hat, and then he pointed the gun, he shot me. He shot the SNG guy who's responsible of putting the link up, and guess what? That guy was Al Jazeera, SNG guy. So how it goes on the ground is we're simply being a target in front of every single journalist sitting in this room, and it's not by mistake, it's not by accident, it's by an intention to silence everyone in this room. How is it that we report? For the last 7 months of my life, we have Gaza, We have the journalists being killed right in front of your eyes. And we have the West Bank, that another system of terrorizing journalists is happening, in which Avichai Adrai, the spokesman of the Israeli army, have time to come and comment on my Instagram or my Facebook or any post that we do to threat you in front of everyone that you're becoming a joke for reporting on what's happening on the ground. In order to go to any place, in order for me to go get my friend, to get her to her family, Shireen Abu Aqle, it took me 7 hours to arrive to the hospital so I can fulfill my promise to not let her alone at the time in need. And it took us more than 10 hours to be able to get her back with all the checkpoints on the way. And if you want to take it from there, it's all about the freedom of movement. And it's only a right for every journalist as a human being as well. We cannot move around to cover any story without being harassed, attacked, shot at by the Israeli army. And if you think it's by mistake, no. I was covering in Jenin, and there was a D9 bulldozer. A D9 bulldozer is technically, if you look at the wall next to you, when you're standing next to it, it will be like this high, like this second balcony high. So I was holding my phone, covering the story, saying what's going on, and then I see the bulldozer coming from behind me. And I said, like, okay, maybe I'm standing in his way. Like, you know, he has to do his work. I have to do my work. No, he's an Israeli soldier just destroying our life. And maybe I'm standing in his way, you know. And I said, like, okay, I'll move to the other side. Suddenly, I'm being hunted by this D9 that was accompanied by Israeli soldiers shooting randomly on everyone, not just me as a journalist, all my fellow journalists, but he was targeting Al Jazeera and everyone around it. So how we work on the ground, we work on the ground with the protection of God. And this oath that we took on ourselves to keep reporting until the last breath that we have on the ground to tell the story. I don't want to make anyone cry, because I cannot cry. Until now, I cannot cry. I cannot feel any kind of emotions with all what you're seeing. On TV, we're seeing it with our own eyes. Before we go out to the field, protection from Al Jazeera, how we're doing it is one thing, but as a human being, going down to the street, not knowing if you're gonna come back alive, saying goodbyes to your family every time, asking your person to take care of everything that you need to tell the world after you die, because you don't know. I survived death 7 times. 7 times, 2 of them intentionally. First time was when I was thinking stupidly that I'm a journalist. I'm the 4th authority. And I was still like 17, and my work called me saying, Faten, there's a big invasion happening in Ramallah, you need to leave university and come. I go, I'm standing on a checkpoint, and then a soldier was pointing out a gun at me. Pointing out a gun. And I was like stupid enough, holding my microphone, thinking like, oh no, I have, you know, protection. I'm protected, I'm a journalist. And then he pointed the gun out, looked me in the eye, and he put it down again. With every time that he was pointing his gun up, and he was standing like this far, 3 meters away from me. First time, second time, third time, he pointed up his gun. I point up my microphone, because I thought that was my weapon, no? As a journalist, your camera is a weapon. My microphone is a weapon, and you are my weapon. But then he shot me. When you get shot, you don't really feel that you're shot. So he shot me in the leg, and I was able to walk, and I just grabbed him from his neck, and I said, do you realize what the hell you just did now? He said, yeah, I shot you. And I was like, okay. So he knows. And I was so stupid to tell him that I'm gonna take you to court. I couldn't take him to court. When I was arrested by Israeli forces, after in front of camera, shooting at me, terrorizing me, sexually harassing me, And this is another thing in the field, how they use even sexual harassment as a weapon. And it's all in front of camera. And I told him that, you know that this is all filmed. And he said, film as much as you want, I don't care. And this is the weapon that he have. So how we're working with protection from God. And Al Jazeera, out of all the channels that I worked with, they were different. They were different in the amount of protection that they give you, how they take care of your families after, and how they deal with you as a human being. And with all this gathered, this is all what you need, is a backbone, as Shrouq said. A backbone that will protect you, but not just me, because I work with them. They went a step forward by working on this initiative called Targeting Journalists is a Crime. And we work hand in hand with you as well to protect everyone, because we are not just numbers. My name is Faten Elwan. I have a face. I have a name. Her name is Shireen Abu Aqle. She has a name and she has a face and she has a family member that will miss her, and we'll talk about it. And we are not a trend. We are not a story that you will enjoy talking about or cry for us a little bit and then leave us alone to face our destiny by not taking action. Your channel is not the responsibility. The audience, you journalists, are the one holding this responsibility. My name is Faten Elwan. I have 6 sisters and brothers. I have 13 nieces, and I want to live and enjoy life with them, but I can't because now I'm here in France, in Italy. But now I have to be away because of the threats that the Israeli government, with their settlers, protected by the government, are attacking me, that went along into threatening my mom. If you don't shut up your daughter, then we're gonna get you and get your sisters and brother. To protect my family from me, from reporting, I had to be out a little bit. And because we're banned as Al Jazeera from working by the Palestinian Authority and by the Israeli army, I decided to come here, not be in jail, and keep my voice be heard. And this is how we're working on the ground.
Faten, thank you. This is the first time I am hearing this testimony. It is not, unfortunately, the first time I'm seeing the video, images, footage of the bulldozer attack that you're describing. And this clear pattern of impunity. And I think Shireen's case has been, as you've said, just so incredibly emblematic for everybody in understanding the moment in which this kind of real impunity sort of crystallized for Israel. In fact, it was her case that prompted CPJ to kind of look back into our archives. And we found that when we released a report in May of 2023, so before October 7th, that in the previous 22 years, 20 journalists had been killed by the IDF, and not a single person had been charged or held responsible for those killings. And so this failure to probe is why there's now this need to really look beyond Israel. And I think that brings us, although it's hard to move away from this compelling narrative, Faten, to you, Dylan, an American citizen, who on October 13th survived an attack in which you were injured, in which Christina, who's sitting up in the audience, up high, the height of the bulldozer, was also injured, and which killed Assam Abdullah. I wondered, Dylan, if you would just talk us through what happened and how you've been able to bring this to a different range of authorities and their reactions.
Yeah, thank you, Amelia, and thank you, Faten, for your testimony. and thank you all for being here on this early Friday morning. Before we get started, I just want to take a minute to pay tribute to my AFP colleagues in Gaza who have so far survived really unimaginable circumstances. Not only has the Israeli forces targeted, bombed, and destroyed our headquarters in Gaza City, but they've all lost their homes. They've all lost multiple family members. They've all suffered hunger. They've all been displaced, and they've all left everything they know. They've all lost everything they know. Some of them have made it out. Some of them remain in Gaza, bravely reporting to this day. And while our case on October 13th may seem like an outlier here, I think it's important to include for two reasons. First of all, because I do see it as part and parcel of this wider systemic attack by Israeli forces against the press. And second of all, because it is so overwhelming, there's so much overwhelming documentation on this case. It is, to my knowledge, the best documented case of Israeli attacks on the press. So before we go any further, I have a video with me I'd like to show. It does come with a massive trigger warning. For those of you who have experienced war and those of you who haven't, because it does give you insight to what these kind of attacks on the press really feel and sound like. So if we could play that video.
My name is Dylan Collins. I'm a video journalist with AFP based in Beirut. On October 13th, I was among a group of 7 journalists in the southern Lebanese border village of Al-Mashab, targeted and hit by Israeli tank fire twice in the span of 37 seconds. The strikes killed Reuters video journalist Aissam Abdallah and left AFP photographer Christina Asi with life-altering injuries, including the amputation of her right leg. All 5 other journalists, myself included, were left wounded. These images are an attempt to show you what happened that day. Here you see my colleague Christina Asi arriving in Al-Mashab, where we spent almost an hour filming a column of smoke on the other side of a distant hilltop, close to Lebanon's border with Israel. At this position, we're about 2 kilometers from the border, significantly removed from the smoke. For the next hour, we filmed the smoke billowing. Together, with colleagues from Al Jazeera and Reuters, we had 3 live broadcast feeds going out to 3 international news agencies. All 7 journalists were clearly marked as members of the press, and we were wearing flak jackets and helmets. We were visible to multiple Israeli military positions along the border, both to our east and to our west, and we were also visible to the Israeli drones constantly buzzing overhead. Audio analysis of my footage that day shows that an Israeli drone circled us at least 11 times in the last 25 minutes before we were hit. We were on an open hilltop, and the Israeli military knew we were there from the moment we arrived. We thought that being seen would protect us. The first Israeli tank shell hit us at 6:02 p.m. It came out of nowhere. I was blown back by the force of the impact, and immediately heard my colleague Christina screaming for help. I ran to her and saw the devastating wounds to her legs. I knew I had to put tourniquets on both legs or she'd bleed out. I got down on my knees, straddling her right leg, and began to slide a tourniquet up towards her knee, but before I could tighten it.
I can't feel my legs! What happened? Okay. I can't feel my legs!
You're okay. Nick! Fuck.
La 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 la.
Fuck.
The second strike came just 37 seconds after the first, and just meters away from its impact site. We later learned that our colleague Aissam was killed instantly in the first strike, after receiving the brunt of its force. The other 5 journalists were wounded in the second strike. 4 independent investigations into the strikes on October 13th by AFP, Reuters, Amnesty International, and Human Rights Watch found that Issam Abdullah and Christina Asi were hit by a 120mm fin-stabilized tank shell manufactured by Israel. The strikes were deliberate and targeted. They arrived just 37 seconds apart, just a few meters from each other. In a subsequent report, Reuters found that the same tank crew opened fire at us with a .50 caliber weapon for nearly 2 minutes after the shells hit, showing that the targeted attack was aimed at taking out the entire group. Additionally, an investigation into the incident by UN peacekeeping force UNIFIL showed that there hadn't been an exchange of fire along the border for more than 40 minutes before we were hit. A month later, journalists working for Al Mayadeen were killed in an eerily similar double-tap attack along the border. Cameraman Rabih Ma'amari and correspondent Farah Omar were killed in that attack. Nothing will bring our friend Issam back, and Christina may never walk the same again. But since this attack, more than 100 journalists have been killed in Israeli strikes, the vast majority of them Palestinian journalists in Gaza. Please help us use this overwhelming amount of evidence to start getting justice.
Dylan, I've seen that video maybe 30 times, and every time it's so incredibly difficult. And I've been in the room with you while you've shown it to a number of perhaps surprising authorities who have broken, I think, while watching it. And I would love if you would explain to everybody who some of those folks were and what's happened since you've shared this evidence.
Yeah, so as I mentioned in the video, we released 4 in-depth reports after about 2 months after the attack. And I was hoping that I could use some of my privilege as an American citizen. So I was waiting for the US government to reach out to me. This is a blatant and brutal attack by the US's greatest ally in the Middle East, potentially using American-provided weapons against a group of journalists and wounding a US citizen as well. But I never heard from them. So with CPJ's help, we arranged a week full of meetings in DC last year in May. And we met with everyone from senators, congressmen, congresswomen, multiple layers of the State Department, officials from the Department of Justice and the FBI. I made them watch the same video. And all of them were deeply disturbed by the footage. All of them said their hands were kind of tied. Even senior officials from the State Department said the best thing I could do was to continue to show this video. And to this day, aside from my senators in the state of Vermont, Bernie Sanders and Peter Welch, who have continued to push for justice, I've received zero support from the US government.
Investigation.
No investigation, no explanation of what their back channels with the Israelis have been, zero. So it just leaves you, I feel like we're so far away from justice that even talking about justice is naive at this point, if I can't even get my own country to recognize the attack.
Thank you, and I want to make sure we have time for a meaningful Q&A, in large part because we actually have in this room, we have those from Al Jazeera, we have at least one journalist who's Gazan, who was previously in Gaza, and so I feel like we should really sort of flip over, and I hope that in part of that conversation, we can start to unpack a little bit what it is that we do when these institutions are not being immediately responsive. But I wanted to close up this panel by going back to Shrouq. And I asked her what it was she wanted all of you to know and all of you to leave this room knowing before we finished.
What I want to tell you as a journalist, as a mom, as a journalist who lost her journalist husband during reporting the genocide. I want to tell you that it's never easy to do journalism at such a place. Like, it's a deadly place. Like, there is no safe place at all. There's no green zones and red zones and all of these lies. What I want to tell you that it's never easy for me as a mom to go to do coverage and leaving behind my little daughter who lost her father at age 11 months and not knowing that if I can return to her or I return and find her. And it's never easy to be marked, to wear that breast vest that is just now marked as a target. People are getting afraid of us. Our families are putting pressure on us to not go to do the coverage because of the systematic killing of the journalists. We as journalists, we are not only documenting this genocide, we are witnesses as well. And that is why the Israeli army is trying to targeting us. The current situation, the humanitarian, is like a pure humanitarian crisis. Like, the situation is deteriorating like day after day. Like I spend most of my time looking for water, for flour, there's no vegetables at the market, we are getting back to the canned food, and trying to charge my devices, the flashlights and all of this stuff. And also to try to get snacks to my daughter, who doesn't believe that there's no snacks in the market outside. She's just 2 years. She raised up in this genocide. She raised up in a tent. You know what it does mean to be living in a tent? It means that this tent cannot protect you from the heat sunny or the cold weather, or even from the shovel. There is always that risk that we felt the helplessness that when there is a bombing that's just around us and we are in this camp, in this tent, how the hell that we can protect our children from the shamble that just fly everywhere. The issue that we as journalists, we are part of this. We are enduring what people are enduring now, yet we are trying to sustain our duties as being journalists, to deliver this truth, this reality to a deep world, unfortunately. Thanks.
Thank you to Shrouq. If we can have those who are running the microphones to the front row. I know that we have two folks here. If we could pass over to Ansha first and then over to you, Montasa, to share what's your experiences and reflections.
Thank you very much. I am Ashraf Masharawi. I am from Gaza. Really, it is not easy to speak here while I have tons of details about what's going on. I have already my colleagues working in Gaza now and sharing the experience that the daily stress we have, it is not easy. For example, yesterday, I received a message while I am one of the sessions that please call me, it is urgent, from one of my colleagues who are working on the ground. I tried to get him back, but I couldn't because the communication is very bad. Then I thought something could be happening wrong to him, or maybe he's under attack. It was very crazy. I tried to call the other colleagues just to check what happened to Mahmoud and Bilal, and they started to try to call them, no answers. The problem you are feeling under this very heavy stress because we know that who enjoy the protection, not the journalists. Who enjoy the protection is the killers, the Israelis, not us. Because of that, we are all the time under the stress that any moment you could lose to your colleague. And we did. Hassan Hamad, one of our crew's member, he's just about 19 years old. He was covering the war, and he was sending me the materials of testimonies of the people who were escaping the shelling in Jabalia. And then he couldn't send everything he had. And he told me, I have to go to home. I have a room on the rooftop with a good internet connection, and from there I can send you the material. He went there. Then after 1 hour or 2 hours, his brother told me that Hassan was targeted with a very precise rockets by drone. Why I am saying very precise? Because his brother who called me, Muhammad, was in the next room. He was untouched. He was no one injury. While he couldn't recognize that Hassan in the next room was get killed because all the remaining of Hassan couldn't fill one small box. They could recognize Hassan from just a piece of his head with his hair, from his hair. He just 1 hour before was talking to me and sending me the pictures and footage. And the more stress you have, it is not just your colleagues, their families and our families, because they are targeting us, sometimes not directly. They are targeting our families to stop us, to silence us. In 2009, they targeted my home, and they killed my 11-year-old brother by a very precise weapon, even by a drone, rockets of a drone. And I investigated that later, and I made a film about this case, and I proved that they could see my brother until last half second by a sophisticated camera equipped with that rocket. And as my colleagues said, there's no justice. It is naive to talk about justice, because until now, from 2009 until now, no investigations, no justifications, you know nothing. Then in this war, they targeted my home again, and they killed my father-in-law. My sister's still there. I am afraid.
I'm sure you're a terrorist.
Yeah. Nobody talk. They are enjoying the protection. And you know, we already lost more than about 200 journalists. Do you know what that means? They try to tell you it is normal. They are normalizing the killing of the journalists. So it is not dangerous on Palestinians. It is dangerous for every journalist in the world, because everybody can do it, because it is normal. Or we already lost 200 journalists. It is very crazy. So actions needed, not just because of us as Palestinians, because of you, because of every journalist. We are losing our dignity, our morals, our justice for nothing, just for keeping silence. Even if we have as journalists, we have a very powerful tools. We didn't employ these tools to serve this, to bring justice to our journalist community and to our victims, we have to employ our tools much stronger. We have to write more, we have to investigate more, because we can't just stay and depend on our colleagues inside Gaza to work and just to watch them and not to do the proper job from our side abroad. So I think we have a lot to do to protect ourselves before our colleagues.
Thank you. I'm so sorry. Can we run the microphone right back to where it was? Thank you.
Thank you for bringing this conversation to Beirut, and thank you for CBJ, who helped in evacuating many of our colleagues who were injured during the war. You know, the thief or the criminal, he doesn't commit his crime only in the darkness. And the journalists in Gaza, they're trying to keep the light on the ground so the criminals, they don't commit the crime against the civilians. They are heroes, actually. Never happened in the history. Such like a group of journalists, they are struggling from sleeping in the street. They have no food, displaced. They lost their families and keep trying to tell the truth, because it's a war on the truth in Gaza, not only on the civilians. What is hurting? We understand there is an Israeli army is targeting journalists, and the international community is keeping silent in front of all this abusing and violation against journalists. The problem is with our colleagues, our journalists who are like complicit with genocide, because there is like a media bias. They don't show what's happening in Gaza. There is no single foreign reporter in Gaza. And even some of our colleagues are not recognized. The number is beyond 200 journalists killed. They are media workers, they are fixers, they are citizen journalists that are killed in Gaza, and they are not even recognized. They are died in the darkness. So I don't want to blame now the occupation, because we already know this. I blame the media who are complicit in the genocide, especially the mainstream Western media who are taking the Israeli statement as a matter of fact. They don't question it at all. They taught us about fact-checking, but they don't check it at all. While when it comes to the Palestinians' statements, they undermine it. And they make you suspicious about anything coming, numbers or facts from Palestinian side, they undermine it. So we don't believe in it. So I'm blaming the media, and I think when we don't want to bring only the soldiers who committed the crimes in Gaza. I think same as happened in Rwanda, we have to bring journalists to the ICC and the ICG. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll turn over to others in the room. While we do, I think it's just worth noting a couple of things. I mean, these numbers of journalists that have been killed. For those who aren't aware of this, the estimated number of journalists in Gaza at the start of the war was around about 1,000. So you think of this as more than literal decimation of the journalistic community that was there. Are there any other questions? Yes, over here in the middle. Does anyone else have questions, so we could perhaps group 2 or 3?
Yeah, thank you so much. Leila from the European Legal Support Center. I wanted just to address, continuing what the previous speaker was saying, that not just journalists are like complicit in the genocide and in the settler colonial project over Palestine, but also like some of the main sponsors of this festival are promoting and giving the tools to what actually the genocide is doing towards Palestinians. So Google and Microsoft are like the main sponsor of this space, and this like companies are providing the material and the technical tools to continuing the killing of the Palestinians, of Lebanese, of Syrians. So when we call things with their names, when we want to gain justice and we want to take these industries and companies like accountable for what is going on, we should like name and shame and really have the tools to work towards justice, understanding that the settler colonial project Israel is not doing what they're doing by nature, but there are like responsibilities in this. And should we be brave? Like this is the moment where people should really stand up and be brave, because there is no time. Like the time is over, the time is finished. And the voices that spoke today are telling us that there is no time anymore. Should we do something? Like, what is Microsoft providing to Israel? What is Google providing to Israel? This is like an open question for everyone.
Thank you. Let's have another question from the row behind, and then I'll turn over to hear your reactions.
Thank you so much for having this important conversation. I wish the room was packed, as it has been in other sessions, but I understand it's early. Amelia, this question is for you. I'm wondering how CPJ categorizes and decides to designate certain killings of Palestinian journalists. So I understand right now 12 have been classified as murders, and the vast majority, over 140, are dangerous assignment. There have been conversations on social media and elsewhere about why more of them are not classified as murder, and I'm just wondering kind of what the decision process is behind that. Thank you.
Yeah, I think I can tackle that quickly first, which is to say that CPJ is using the same methodology that it's used sort of over its existence. And for us, this requires a number of things. One, having to verify from two different sources what has occurred. I think as of today, there's 17 targeted killings that we've been able to confirm. There's at least 20 more that we suspect if we were able to get access, if we had a greater number of journalistic sources, if there were not consistent blackouts, we'd be able to sort of conduct that. And I think there are, of course, differing across organizations, differing definitions of journalist, who's excluded, who's not. I think what we can all agree on is this is one of the deadliest conflicts on record for journalists. The pace and rate of killing is unprecedented. And so in no way do we want to diminish or undermine the other numbers by other organizations, particularly those coming out of Gaza, which are doing so through a different methodology. So thank you for raising that and clarifying that. I wanted to turn over to reactions from you both on these questions of complicity, or more generally to any other points you weren't able to raise.
On complicity, particularly continuing what our colleague Ashraf noted, the media is complicit in allowing this impunity to continue. Time and time again, we've seen the killing of our colleagues being shrouded in vague, passive language, as if they fell and they died. And we're breaking time and time again, we're breaking the rules of journalism. We need to use active language. We need to be braver. Because the longer we allow it to happen, the more emboldened other countries will be, the more these attacks on the press will continue.
Faten.
Microsoft, Google, Instagram, CBC, CNN, ABC News, CCJ, ICJ, name whatever you want. Everyone is complicit. Everyone is complicit. We use their tools. I use their tool. Every single journalist used their tool until other tool is created, because this is the only tool that we have, and I wish sometimes I'm a millionaire so I can build other tool that has no control over it. But what we can control, away from targeting big issues, because at a certain point you will find that the Israeli lobby is so going into every single detail of investment, intelligent media sources, and this we cannot change until it's changed. But to change it, what we need to do is to talk, to put it out, to criminalize it, to put a name on it. In Gaza, every journalist they want to eliminate, terrorist. He worked with the Islamic group. He works with I don't know what. Suddenly they put a stigma over your head, and then it's justified to kill you. Okay. So Gaza, you want to play this game. In the West Bank, which game do you want to play? What game exactly you want to play to justify arresting journalists, harassing them, and soon enough you're going to be seeing killing journalists as well in the West Bank, because what's happening in the West Bank is a mini Gaza turning into it, in which just yesterday they arrested 2 journalists under the title of working with terror organization. They're terrifying journalists in Jerusalem, putting them in jail for using incitement against Israel, and that means posting my story, the Palestinian story, on my social media. And if I want to point a finger, I will point it to every single journalist sitting in this room, and you can point your finger from here to every single journalist that you're gonna see out there, because we are being left alone without any kind of action or movement from you, journalists. And if I want to make a change, I cannot change a government that they have a clear intention to silence our voice, to put our story aside because they have a business deal. They have the Riviera and Gaza that they want to build, and those don't give a shit about us. But you give a shit about us, and you should give a shit about us, because today, as Dylan said, we, with our blood and soul, and with the soul of Ismail Al-Ghul, Hussam Shabat, Shireen Abu Aqle, name with me. They're so like, you only know 6 or 7 or 18 journalists that are dead. If I open my WhatsApp and let you hear their voices and their names before they died, asking me, Faten, what to do. Journalists in Gaza thinking that I can be their savior, and probably you got those phone calls as well, because I have nothing to do besides sitting with them on a phone call until they take their last breath. I have nothing that I can do, and I'm mad. I'm mad on every single journalist who decided to see us being killed. And I say we being killed because when they killed Shireen, when they killed Hussam, when they killed Ismail, when they killed so many journalists. One journalist, she died out of a heart attack. Did you hear about her?
I'm sorry, Faten, we're on time. We're on time. I'm so sorry.
So you need to talk. You're responsible. We, with our blood, are setting the rule of what's going to happen to every one of you when the role of power change. Today it's us, tomorrow it's you.
And I'm so sorry to have to end this conversation. But I hope you all can take this madness, the tears that we weren't able to see from Faten today, and really feel whatever is possible within you to take out this quest for accountability, potentially justice, kind of into the space. Thank you all so much. Thank you especially to Faten and to Dylan and to the organizers.